Hey guys, what's up? It's munclesonkey and welcome to my Dominion Tower guide. In this guide I will be showing you how to unlock all of the achievements within the Dominion Tower and also why you want to unlock these achievements. So let's go ahead and get into that. First of all, there's three things that you can get from the Dominion Tower that are probably going to help you out. First of all are the tier 85 gloves. These are the Goliaths, the spellcasters, as well as the Swift gloves. What's good about these is they're the second highest defensive bonus of any glove in the game, but on top of that they also have a 5% chance to do 25% extra damage while using an ability, and also when that effect goes off, it drains the opponent's defense. Can come in handy. Second is the Dreadnips, which are some deployable familiars that do damage over time as well as can poison targets. They last about a minute each. They can be handy in a few situations. They're not great, but if you do have them, it can be nice to let them out while doing some lower tier bosses, and it can help you out a little bit. Also, the third thing to unlock is you do have to do all of the achievements to finish off the desert task. This is a completion escape requirement, as well as it grants you access to the Desert Amulet 4, which boosts the damage of the Karis weapon by a lot when you're fighting the Kalphite King, and is the best melee weapon to use against the Kalphite King when you have this Desert Amulet 4. So if you're into that boss, it's a really good thing to get Dominion Tower done so that you can use the Karis. So what do you need before you can start doing the Dominion Tower? First of all, you do have to complete 20 quests. And what 20 quests are these? Well, you actually get to choose what quests you would like to do. And it's a very long list, so if you want to know exactly what the quests are that are in the Dominion Tower that are required to access it, there will be a link to that down in the description. You can check that out, but you just have to complete 20 out of those 40 odd quests, and then you will be able to gain access to Dominion Tower and start working on your boss skills. And there are specific requirements for each of the different types of gloves as well, so you will have to complete certain quests to unlock each of the 3 pairs of gloves. So before anything else, we will be going over a setup for both Endurance and Climber mode. And the reason why you want to be doing Endurance and Climber mode is almost all of the achievements are unlocked from those things. There are 6 achievements that you will be unlocking from both of these, as well as some lesser achievements that will be unlocked during the way of doing the 6 main ones. And these are, you have to find 20 journal pages, kill 500 total bosses, reach floor 15 in Climber mode, suffer every single handicap in Climber mode, reach 25 in Endurance mode, and use the help horn and all 3 of the different bombs, which you can find in the reward chests after finishing off a run. So for the gear and inventory itself, for the gear, first of all, I have the Dominion medallion equipped because that does boost your stats by quite a bit when inside the Dominion Tower. For the equipment, I wear War Priest because it is nice to have armor that's not going to reduce your accuracy in other styles, because there are many situations where you'll have to pick up a melee weapon on the ground and then use it on a boss to finish off the boss. So for situations like that, I want to be able to have accuracy to hit with the melee weapon. That's why I wear the War Priest. I also have Ice Gloves equipped because there are 2 different bosses that you can run into where Ice Gloves are pretty much required to kill them. So for those 2 bosses, which are the Desert Treasure bosses as well as the Recipe for Disaster bosses, you want to make sure you have those Ice Gloves, or otherwise you're kind of screwed and then you have to start over. I also wear Seismics, however you can use Drygores or even Chaotix are completely fine. Most of the bosses that you'll be facing are really low levels, very easy to kill. Then for the inventory, you just want food, all types of runes, because there are 2 different types of Dagonoth Mothers you can run into, so you do want to make sure that you can have multiple spell types to take them out more quickly. I also have super antifires in case you run into Elvarg, and the rest is just prayer and overloads. If you choose to use the overloads, again, it's not really required. You'll get a decent stat boost from the Dominion medallion anyway, but if you would like the kills to be sped up a little bit, feel free to bring them. So the first thing that we will be doing is doing Climber mode, which is the initial and probably the main style of gameplay in the Dominion Tower. The cool thing about Climber mode is it is more difficult than the Endurance mode, where you're killing bosses regularly. With the Climber mode, you will have some handicaps, but you'll get way more Dominion factor with the Climber mode, which means that you'll get way more rewards and way more XP in your XP book as you continue to kill bosses in the Climber mode. So you do have to select a handicap, and you can choose to respin or nudge if you really don't like the handicap, but you can only do that 3 times, and then you get an additional 1 try every single time you defeat a boss. Now with some of the bosses, if it does require a special item to beat them, for example the Toktiz Ket Dil requires you to smash its armor with a pickaxe, it will have that item on the ground except for the Ice Gloves, which is why I bring the Ice Gloves with me and why it's nice to have those. But for all the other bosses that require this, they will have that item on the ground, so you can just go ahead and pick it up. There will even be runes on the ground for a monster like Chronozon, for example, where you do have to use spells against him, and so if you just forgot to bring a certain type of rune or whatever, that will have that as well, which can be pretty nice. Now there are 2 objectives that you have to complete in Climber mode, and of course you can do things such as go for the journal pages in Climber mode or go for boss kills in Climber mode if you would like. It is a little bit faster in Endurance mode, but of course with the Climber mode you get much better rewards than Endurance mode. But the 2 things you absolutely have to do is reach floor 15 in Climber mode, that is without leaving any of the fights and collecting your reward, reward. After you collect your reward, you are done with that round and you have to start over. So you have to win 15 consecutive fights, which can be pretty easy. You will eventually get to a time where you're lucky enough where you won't run into any difficult bosses at all 15 times in a row, because the really easy bosses are a lot more common than the more difficult bosses, and you will eventually get it. So just don't be afraid to leave, because if you do die during one of the boss fights, then you lose a lot of Dominion factors, so that's not good. You also have to suffer every type of handicap, which is pretty easy to achieve over time, so I wouldn't worry too much about that one. Eventually you will get that one done. Now, climber mode is definitely my most favorite way of doing Dominion Tower, and when I went for the 500 boss kills myself, I did almost all of them throughout climber mode, although I eventually, after I got the 500 done, I did switch over to endurance to get the last of the journal pages. But overall, climber mode is really nice, just because you can get so much XP over a long time, and also as you continue to do fights, your Dominion factor will increase exponentially, so the longer you stay, the more XP you'll get. For example, if you do 15 kills, that 16th kill will be worth way more Dominion factor than doing 1 kill if you start over. So once you reach into a really crappy boss, such as Decaying Avatar, for example, then you quit and you go and collect your Dominion factor from the chest, and then you start over. And I think I reached 11 or 12 kills that time, which is a fairly average round, and I really didn't run into any difficult bosses at all until that 12th one. And then I got a lot of rewards, including some bombs. I got all 3 of the bombs, and they are required to use, so make sure that you pick up all 3 of those bombs, as well as 1 help horn at least once, because you have to use all of them at least 1 time within Dominion Tower in order to grab the achievement. Then you can just bank all the rest of the stuff, and it's fairly straightforward. So now it's time to go into endurance mode, and you do have to do some endurance and some climber no matter what you decide to do, because you do have to do both of them to unlock all the achievements. And the achievements for endurance mode are reach floor 25 in endurance, which is quite high. One thing that's important to remember is you can bank after every single kill, every single fight with the bosses, so it really should not be that difficult at all, considering you can do that. In climber mode, you cannot bank after killing bosses, so this makes it quite easy, just because if you run out of food or something, I don't see why you would, because almost all the bosses you're facing really hardly require any eating at all. But if you do decide to do that, you can just grab some extra food from the bank or whatever, and it becomes quite easy. And then also you need to use the help horn upgrade in all bombs, and why I listed this in here, even though I touched on it a little bit in the climber mode, is because it's easier to get the help horn in all the bombs just by doing the endurance mode, because you get more chances to loot the chest, which means more chances to grab all of those bombs. Of course, you have a much better chance of getting bombs if you get a really high Dominion factor in the climber mode, but one easy way of getting the bombs is just looting the chest after every single kill, and you won't get very many rewards from it, but you do have a pretty good chance to run into those bombs because you have so many opportunities. So overall, it should be pretty easy to get to floor 25 in endurance. It's really not that bad at all. You don't have any handicaps to worry about. Once you get that done, you can go back to climber or continue doing endurance for your 500 kills. Either way, that is fine, and also this is a good way to get journal pages as well, because you can loot the chest so many times. One of the longest and probably one of the most annoying achievements in the Dominion Tower, but something that you do have to do in order to get your Dominion marker fully completed, is finding 20 journal pages. And how you do this is by just constantly doing endurance mode and then looting the chest after every single kill. And yeah, it's annoying, yeah, it's kind of tedious, but this does give you a really good shot to spawn one of those journal pages. They are going to be kind of rare looting the chest. It's about a 1 in 16 chance or so of getting them, to 1 in 20 chance, roughly around those lines. However, you will be looting the chest so often, and the kills will take hardly any time, so you will eventually get it done and find all 20 of the journal pages that you need to fill the journal. The final thing that you have to do to unlock all the achievements in Dominion Tower is to defeat all the special matches, and I will be going through all of these and just giving you a short rundown. I'll give you a spoiler, they're all really easy, so you shouldn't have to worry too much, except for maybe one challenge, maybe 1 or 2 you might struggle with a little bit if you are a lower level. But if you are a higher tier player, and probably most of the people that will be going for the completionist cape requirement, as well as the Cow Fight King bonus that you get from the Desert Amulet 4, will be higher levels. And the first one is the Evil Chickens. That's by far the most straightforward. There's not much to talk about there. Just wear magic armor, use magic, run around. The second one is called Finish Him, and what you have to do for this one is just kill a whole bunch of enemies, and there are several enemies that are not particularly weak to magic, including the gray, white, and black golems, but I was able to kill them with magic fairly easily. You also have to kill Koschei the Deathless, and he was a bit challenging. I couldn't figure out how to attack him at first, but actually what you want to do is you want to run away from him and then queue an ability and then attack him, and you have to queue that ability when you're out of combat. For some reason it wasn't letting me queue the ability in combat. And then the third special match is called Just Die Already, and for this one you have to kill a whole bunch of Dagonoth Sentinels. What you want to do is you want to walk under the Sentinels so that both Sentinels are standing under each other, and I did not do a very good job of this. I only did it for the first Dagonoth. But if the two Sentinels are standing under each other, then they won't heal each other. If they're looking at each other, then they will heal each other. And I was able to out-hit them, but if you were using lower tier weapons, you would not be able to. And then the next challenge is probably not even kidding the easiest challenge that I faced the entire time, and this is No More Nomad No More, although I was using overloads for this challenge and I didn't for the other challenges. And you have to kill 2 nomads, and unfortunately Nomad is just not a very difficult fight anymore, so it should not cause that many problems. His typical magic attacks splash all the time, and even when they do hit, they don't do a whole lot of damage. They only hit like a couple hundred, so you should be completely fine even if you don't have tier 90 weapons. You could do this in a chaotic staff and just Ganodermic armor and you'd be 100% fine killing the nomads. So don't worry too much about it, and just make sure you bring some food along with you, and if you really struggle, you could summon a War Tortoise or something and fill that up with food, and then you should have nothing to worry about. Nomad does use some special attacks, so you can just hide behind the pillars when he does stuff like that, and you should be completely fine if you were to struggle with that challenge at all, although I don't know why you would. And the next one is I eat Dagonoths for breakfast, so you want to make sure that you have all the rune types available for this. You can additionally bring a melee and a ranged weapon if you want to. However, it doesn't take too long for the Dagonoths to switch their phases, and then you do have to damage the Dagonoth Mother with the Battlemung before you can start killing her with the spells, so just be aware of that. And then after you have that done, then you have to just finish off the Dagonoth Sentinels, and we all know how that goes. We already fought Dagonoth Sentinels during a challenge. So the next challenge is Indigestion, and you do want to have your ice gloves equipped during this challenge. Otherwise, Flambeed will wreck your day up. So make sure that you have those equipped for this challenge and you should be completely fine. And there's once again a Dagonoth Mother during this challenge. So just make sure that you have all of the different rune types. You should be completely fine once again. And then the next challenge is called You'll Never Defeat Me. There's 2 ways to beat this challenge. There's the dumb way, which is running around the arena for 5 minutes and surviving. You can't eat any food at all. So if you are really struggling, that might be an option for you. However, for most people, you can just kill everything in the arena. It only takes like a minute to a minute and a half, and then that will finish off the challenge as well, so you don't have to run around. And then this next challenge is probably the hardest one. So I only brought 10 sharks for this challenge and I barely survived it. So you want to make sure that you bring a lot more sharks than that, and also you might want to bring an anti-fire potion, because you can't have any items equipped, but you can drink potions, and Elvarg is in this challenge. So drinking an anti-fire right after the challenge starts would probably be a good idea. So what you want to do is just run around the arena picking up all of the bombs, just as many as you can. Doesn't matter on the size. Don't worry about not picking up the diminutive bombs or anything. They all hit the same damage. It's just that the larger bombs have a larger area of effect attack. So when you're all around the enemies and they're all clumped together, you can probably hit most of them with the smaller bombs anyway. So you just want to fill your inventory up, and unfortunately these bombs do not do very much damage. They only hit 700s, and a couple of the monsters have pretty high HP, so they can be kind of hard to kill with the bombs. But after you finish all of them off, it shouldn't be that big of a deal. Just run around the inventory, or run around the room and eat. Now the final one is Sunfreet, and for this one, the main thing to worry about is just the fire attacks. So you want to run in the pattern where I was running. You kind of stand in the middle of the circle, and then run to the outside, then run to the middle again, and then run to the center of the circle. And as long as you do that, it should be fairly easy. And just make sure you have some Rocktails or Cerebrews. Again, just as long as you're following that pattern that I am walking with the fire, you shouldn't be hit too much about it. And that's really the only thing that is to worry about, because Sunfreet's attacks himself are not that bad at all. It's just the fire that you have to watch out for. And then Sunfreet does have high defense, but he barely hits anything, so it's not that big of a deal. And the final thing that you can do for Dominion Tower, although this is not required to do if you just want to complete all the achievements, is to go for Rumble Mode. There are a couple things that you can unlock in Rumble Mode. First of all, if you survive for 45 minutes in a Rumble Mode, and all I can say to that is good luck, you're going to have a 5-man team that's pretty serious and are wearing pretty good gear, and just going all out with full familiars, full of food and all that if you want to survive for 45 minutes, but it is entirely possible, and you will unlock the title The Survivor if you manage to do that. Also, if you kill 1,800 bosses in Rumble Mode, which I've heard personally takes about 3 to 4 hours with a 5-man team, then you can additionally unlock the Extreme Dominion Medallion, which costs 750k to buy, and then if you die in your grave or anything and lose it, it costs an additional 750k to buy another one. And what this will do is provide 1% accuracy boost when you are killing bosses outside of Dominion Tower or even in Dominion Tower. So no matter where you go, you can wear that medallion, 1% extra accuracy. It's alright, it's not amazing. I would not say it's worth killing all of the bosses in Dominion Tower for. However, if you find it fun or just really want to go go for that aimlet for that tiny bit of extra accuracy, by all means go for it, and it can be some fun just hanging out with friends and killing the bosses in the rumble mode by itself. When you are done with all of these achievements, you should be able to buy yourself some Dominion gloves as well as some Dread Nips if you want, and for every single pair of gloves that you buy, you do have to do an additional 25 boss kills for another pair of gloves, and they last 4 hours in combat before degrading, or if you manage to die with them and you put them in your grave, they'll degrade to coins, and then you'll have to get more gloves. So that kind of sucks, and you do have to spend quite a bit of Dominion Tower time if you want to gain more gloves, but they are really good gloves, probably the best gloves in the game depending on what situation you're using them in. Anyway, thank you guys for watching this guide. Hopefully it helped you out. Make sure to leave a like and also leave down in the comments what you would like to see for my next guide, and I will base it off of what your guys' feedback is. That's all for me. I'm out. See you next time. Farewell.